Sure.
The idea is that you could build a great dashboard, but the visionary and or CEO can look at all of the seats and make sure that each seat is checking off their jobs. And so each seat has a dashboard for themselves. So like if you have 3 seats that you're sitting in, you have 3 dashboards that you're looking at. And then I can look at all those dashboards to make that working. Yep. And so that's where it's like, you can go from a team of 3 and you have 20 seats, so you can go to a team of 20 and nothing changes.
So it kind of summarizes what you're saying with the EOS model, but also everything else. There's a quote, I'm not sure who it's by, so I do apologize, but specialize in projects and generalize in skill.
So I think having that skill, like my belief is you have that one skill and that helps you do the other things that you want to do. And make sure it's the skill that you really want and love doing.
And this all ties into the time management side of things, because as the president, I think there's probably some temptation to, as the leader, as the face and what you're known for, the results that come out of your leadership reflect upon you. And so I think there's a temptation to actually try to control a lot of what's going on by doing, with the work yourself. You've heard the saying that if you want to do it right, do it yourself.
Okay.
Let's do this, brothers. So you guys ready?
Yeah, let's go, man.
I'm going to try something for this one. I'm going to have Otter AI record it as well to give us like the summaries automatically. I want to see how that looks. So
you can use it for SEO.
Yeah. SEO and just for the summaries to put on YouTube, because people really like when they can see the sections of the video.
Valid.
And
so you could look,
I've never put that on.
Because it's songs.
It's just hard to do. Yeah. It takes forever. So
unless you use AI.
Well, exactly. That's what we're going to try to do now. I mean, you can have the transcripts later.
Is it going now?
Yeah,
that's cool.
So,
all right.
I'll probably be doing this.
So this past week, I heard a quote from Alex Hormozy, and it said, just because you have free time doesn't mean that anybody who asks for it is entitled to it. And this actually reminded me of when I was like, I don't know, high school or something like that. My mom always is saying, like, you are extroverted and you need to learn to say no. Like you will say yes to so many things because you want to experience so many things. And I love that about you. Like that's great. But at some point you're going to be so drained that you're going to say yes to things out of obligation to those people without actually wanting to do those things. And I think like as a junior in college now, I've learned that skill is so crucial and so important.
Was she talking about in relation to like business or?
I think it's in general. Like, cause as an extrovert, you're going to do anything, right? You're going to have FOMO, it's just to some regard. And so I was just like, no, that's now I'm realizing that's some great insight. Cause she said like, that's what she struggled with. And she was in college and high school. And it's kind of weird how like you could be told so many things, but now you just have to experience it for you. Like you touch the stove sometimes. Yeah. And I feel like I touch the stove way too often, but 100% agree with that.
And you have to be willing to be like more almost dictatorial, like a dictator with your time. Be willing to actually say no to people, say yes to people, and just let people know with like open, honest accountability, whatever you want to call it. You just have to be open and upfront with them. It's like, I don't have time for that because I've already committed to these things. I don't have time for this specific thing because I have these goals that I want to achieve. And if you put them in the story, something like, I have this goal and I have to give time to it. So right now I don't have time for that. And maybe not as much time for you, but I hope and my goals in the future, I have more time for you.
It's discernment. It's all about discernment, right? Because time is arguably our most valuable resource. And so I guess when, you both of you are extremely busy guys, you're involved in so many different things. And I think you've probably been asked to do a lot of things that you had to say no to. How do you know when to say yes to something? You mentioned your goals. How does that fit in with how you had that discernment to say, yes, I'm going to do this, and no, I'm not going to do that?
I think beginning the day too, and I don't do this, this is a preaching to the choir here, is waking up, and I've heard it in chapel, I've heard it at church, wake up and ask God, who is that one person that I can meet today, that I can have the opportunity to disciple, evangelize, talk to, make an impact on? And so you have to allow, with the goals that you have, with everything that you have scheduled, like you have your ideal week that you schedule out, you have to allow for variance in that to have the opportunity to meet with that person. Because our number one goal, regardless of the businesses that we start, the impact that we want to make, the goals that we have for our life, it is about the people. There is one singular goal. It's the ministry of reconciliation given unto us 2 Corinthians 5:20 in that realm. So you have to say no to things in achieving your goals, but you have to be open to that person, whether it's already a friend, which is like discipling, being with them, whether it's a relationship that you're in, getting time to that because it's showing your love towards them, or it's that random person that you run into. Like I just, in my theology class, other things I've run into people, started conversations with them, and I'm beyond happy that I did.
And I think one of the best ways you can do that is you could have non-negotiables. Like I think it was Matt Troy, he was talking about this. Like I have specific non-negotiables in my day that have to get done, right? I totally agree with you. There needs to be variance in your schedule, right? Because when you plan out your whole week, you have so much variance because you have so much time that things can happen, whatever. But sometimes, and I think every day I would argue that you have to have these non-negotiables, that if those non-negotiables are checked off, then you say no to everything.
Pretty like what? Like what would that be for you?
So it's spending time in the morning in scripture. That's number one. If I have a run, so I run 4 days a week. If I have a run, that's a non-negotiable. If I don't get up early enough and I have a doubt commitment and I miss my run, okay, and I want friends to hang out, your friends want to hang out with me later that day, I have to say no because I didn't do that run day. And then also the gym, huge. Gym's huge. And then reading time every day. So those 4 things. And those 4 things combined probably 3-4 hours. Like it's a decent chunk of time, but it's not a whole lot. And so if you could have those non-negotiables where you're like, okay, so I didn't get this done today. No, I can't. I'm sorry. I have to get some of this stuff done.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to get at, and you guys are certainly touching on this, is your time that you have is your opportunity to build for something in the future. It's the moment and space that you have to act towards the ultimate goal that you have. And so,
and that way it's not selfish. What you're saying, that makes this quote not selfish.
Right. So let's, it can come across as a selfish quote because, it comes across as like, my time is more valuable than your time. And I understand why people would kind of view it that way. I think on the entrepreneurial side of things, visionaries, people like us who have visions for the future, who want to build something really big and are aiming towards that. Sometimes we have to say no to the things now that are going to inhibit that from happening, because our goal and why I believe entrepreneurship is such an incredible gift from God is because entrepreneurship at its core, capitalism at its core, when you view it in a moral way, is to provide value to other people for the long term. And when you have a successful business, your impact, like Will was talking about, is magnified. And so when you frame it in that perspective, like I believe, if you believe that God has called you to entrepreneurship and to work really hard at one thing and make something like that succeed, I think it's okay to justify saying no to certain things that are obstacles or hindrances to you reaching those goals. But again, you have the non-negotiables, like stewarding your body. But we talk about fitness on this podcast because that's when we realize as entrepreneurs, you need to have a healthy body to manage your time efficiently and well. Family, we talked about that with relationships as well. That's something that can't slip. When you have those non-negotiables in place, that's when then you're able to say, this is in alignment with that business goal, or this isn't, and to the overall health of us as individuals. And so that's where I believe that why the motivation, the goals has to be in alignment to how we frame saying yes or saying no to something.
And one of the frameworks that I've followed and it's been very helpful, it comes from a guy named John Yu. I hope that's the way it says.
And I did you put in the lead, but he's almost there.
He had like 5.3 million followers. It's incredible what he's done in the past few years. He actually was included in Gary Vee's book. Oh, wow. It's the new one he just did. Day Trading Attention.
What's his name?
Day Trading Attention? That's a great name.
He got into that book.
That's awesome.
So that's his whole shtick. It's JUNYUH.
John Yu.
And so he is
Said it right. You're good.
he brings the whole thing is the 4 pillars of life, which is the 4 things that you have every day that you should get. So it's the spirit, body, mind, accountability. So those are the things that you should always do every single day. Spirit meaning whatever it is, reading the Bible, prayer, a specific, it needs to be SMART goals. These are SMART goals so you can actually like check them off. So what is the specific spiritual activity that you're doing that day that you want to work on to better your spiritual life, whether that's reading in the morning, whether that's a specific way of prayer, whatever. Body is obviously your body, whatever the specific thing you're working on now, checking that off every single day. And then your mind. And so your mind, this does not mean necessarily, this is all for personal. It's not necessarily like working on your business. It could be learning a specific area of business to help my business, but it's the process of learning for yourself. So whether that's reading a book, whether that's going through a course, whether that's working with a mentor, mind is something personally you're working on every day. And then the fourth one is accountability, which is really, is it a person? Is it a journal? Is it a video entry that you do every day to you actually talk about the process of going through those three pillars, to keep yourself accountable of like why you did it or why you end up not being able to do it on that day. And so that's the one thing that he always tells people, his following in his program, is if you can follow those four things, you'll be fine. And then beyond that, like goals, having the non-negotiables, like if you have a business or you're in school, there's probably at least one task for each of those that probably needs to be done every day. And so establishing what those two are, that's almost 7 things every single day. And if you can do them, and not all of them are big, like spirit might only be 15 minutes, could be 30 minutes, could be more. Body, you can't go to the gym for 3 hours. So you could, but like that might be just an hour.
It just has to make sense. It all has to mesh and balance together. And I know you don't like the word balance, but there has to be that integration, right? Where where it all makes sense because it all actually plays into, and that's why I like having, I think there should be an overarching goal and then there should be individual life goals, because like the overarching goal is everything you do to honor God and to work for and glorify him and make his kingdom, make himself known to the world. Right. But then you have the different facets of your family and your business life, but those things are actually integrated. One of the things that a mentor told me about is, if you have a good family life and health, that's going to help your business life. And if you're able to succeed in business and not have all that, if you're doing the right things and go to sleep at night knowing you're doing the right things, that's going to affect the way that you interact with the people in your family, your social life. And so I think there is the integration, but where do all those microcosms of experiences and goals, how do they play into that major life goal that you have? And I think that really there's a pyramid cascade of the way we orient our goals. And then I think that's how the framework should be when we're examining, is something worth our time?
We talk a lot about theory, which I love because it's applicable to so many different things, but I love the application side of things. And Will, you talked about the 4 pillars. I want to take that a step further. And I promise I'll bring this full circle. So there's this study that Harvard did. And there was a long line of people wanting to get coffee at Starbucks or wherever it was. And if you want to go back in the line to get coffee, you're going to have to wait 30 minutes. And if you're rushing to work, then you're like, man, I can't get coffee today. So what they did is they sent one of their test subjects in and they said, go to the 5th person in the line from the front, 5th person away from the register and ask them if they could cut in line with you. Give no reason why, just can I cut in line with you? I'm not sure a specific statistic, but it was probably around 30% said yes. And then they sent another test subject in, same person, or a different person, but still 5th away from the register. And they gave a general reason why they needed to cut in line. Hey, I'm running late. I have to go to work. And the percentage rate was around like 60. They put a 3rd person in and they said, okay, now give a specific reason why you need to cut in line. Hey, could I cut in line with you? I really got to run to work. I have this presentation. I've been working out all night. And 90% of the people let them in. And the reason why I say this is we don't want this quote to be selfish, right? Our time is not more valuable than somebody else's. But what it is if we can give a reason why I can't hang out right now, the person who is receiving that information and like, why can't they hang out? Are we not friends? Like, did I do something wrong to them? No, that's not the reason why. I have a reason, and here is the reason. And the more specific you can be, the more likely they are to take that and receive that in a better way.
Did you want to steward the relationships that you have and people that you have, the opportunities you have? But if you're saying no, then you have just be open about it. Communication, that's one of the biggest things with it. And so like you said, just explain specifically what you have going on. Like say like, oh, I need to study on this assignment for this class that's due tonight or tomorrow. And people are much more, I don't know what the word would be, like open to it. But just more open to the idea of like, okay, I understand now. and then they're okay with it.
So I think nothing
relationships.
Yeah.
Nothing has gone wrong. There's just a simple fact of I need to do this thing. And so I am going to have to shift what we are doing to another time or put that in somewhere else if it's a new request.
So I have mixed thoughts. So I love what you guys said about, you know, in the social aspect of things, like you don't want to leave your friends, you know, hanging out to dry. Obviously you want to be a good friend and steward those relationships well and tell them, you know, explain your personal goals, things like that. If they're a good friend, they're going to understand and they're going to want what's best for you. But I think almost what's even the bigger challenge is when there's professional opportunities that arise. And this is where the discernment gets difficult, at least for me personally. There's all these opportunities when you keep your eyes open on how you can be involved and learn new things. But how do you know which professional business opportunities to say yes to and when to say no to? And are there specific times in your life where you should say yes more than no to others? And I have some thoughts on this, but I wanted to hear what you guys had to think first.
So Daniel Daly, he calls it the shiny object syndrome, and Alex Ramosi calls it the woman in the red dress. And I won't go specifically into detail about what this means, but in general, you're running a business and you have all these different opportunities that come your way. And Daniel Daly just gave the example. He's like, I have so many ways I could reach out to different clients, get new leads, all these different things. But if I can just do the mundane stuff that creates this business with zero kinks in it, then the business will grow on its own. So the reason why I say that is you're going to have so many different opportunities. And if they don't check a specific criteria that you need for those opportunities, I think you say no. And that criteria for you to run them by is specific to the person. There's not an overall, oh, it doesn't check this box, but it checks these other two. Like, no, it's whatever you deem to be worthy of your time. And whatever that is, you run it past your criteria that you create before whatever you're confronted with this opportunity. You run it past it. And if it doesn't check all the boxes, no, I'm sorry, I can't today. Thank you, though.
Yeah, you have to be able to discern whether it meets your goals. That's where actually determining what your goals are, determining what your mission is, determining what your vision is, and whatever you're doing is important, because then it's just like you compare what I'm doing right now going to do for my goals versus how can this add to what I'm doing to achieve the goal.
So, Will, when I met you and you were a freshman, and even last semester, you were doing a lot of different stuff. And we were actually, I don't know if you were there or not, but I was talking to your dad and he was like, yeah, I encourage my kids to just do a bunch of art things when they're young. So basically like say yes to a lot of stuff.
Didn't you read the Benjamin biography? Did we get an autobiography? How long is that thing?
It's not that it's long. It got the language that is used in it, not like vulgar language, but the intellectual level of language used by Benjamin Franklin and expressing his story, ideas of life. It's hard.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but that's one of the hard things his dad told him to do. Is every one of his kids, he has to read this autobiography, which is, it's very difficult.
So, but like, no, and that's something that takes a lot of time to do. But, you know, Will, you've been involved in a lot of different clubs. You've been involved in a lot of different clubs and a lot of different organizations and sports and things like that. And so you said a lot, yes to a lot of things. I think I've noticed, and correct me if I'm wrong, this semester you kind of focused in on something. So when you're young and you don't have the base and the knowledge for your skills and for the things that you're passionate about, should you say yes to a lot of things and then just figure it out? Or should you just kind of guess on the things that you think you'll be good at and just go all in on that?
I would say that you should say yes to a lot of things whenever you're young, and being willing to take on the responsibility and the risk of overcommitting for two reasons. One, that will put you in the position where you have to learn how to manage your time, but also not just your time, but manage your energy. You have to be able to figure out what time of day you're able to do certain things to where you're effective with it, to where you need to figure out how to take this thing that should take 2 hours and just force yourself to do it in an hour and a half or 1 hour. Like figure out how to be as effective as possible with the time that you have in doing something. The second part in that is maybe it's not the most ideal, but it's the opportunity of failure and disappointments is so much higher when that occurs. Like I have disappointed people in my pursuit of doing a lot of things. I have failed in different areas in my pursuit of doing a lot of different things, but that has built my character so much more than if I just focused in on one thing and failed in that one thing.
What's that tipping point where you've had a lot of experiences, you were encouraged to do that, but what's that tipping point where you go from saying yes to everything to starting to say no? How do you know when it's time to focus in and lock in and really take a derivative approach into one direction?
Yeah. So Jordan Peterson talks about it all the time, where he says your 20s, you should figure out how much stamina you have and how hard you could possibly work. Find the tipping point. And so I would say my tipping point was 100% found. Not 100% found, but it was found this past semester in the fall. So it's the spring semester now. And I found myself to be way more effective in all that I do. But that was through trial and error and fault, to where September, for example, was probably one of the more difficult months I've had. Professionally, I'd say. Not necessarily personally. And you could argue personally as well, because I was definitely a lot more distant in the faith. But in the month of September, for the entire month, we were prepping for the pitch. We had a dance that we were putting on, and I basically helped do 8 events in the span of 1 month. I was doing 25 hours a week for soccer as a JB soccer, president of an org, vice president of my class, working 5 hours a week, and then 14 credits of classes on top of that. So that entire month, I had what most likely was stomach ulcers, to where I could only eat 1 meal a day because I was so stressed out.
I didn't know that.
I thought I was just dang.
So I stressed myself out so much, gave myself ulcers, barely ate, lost 10 pounds, crapping bread all the time, like every day, for that entire month. And it was after that month, after the pitch, and that week after, I was just like, wow, I think this is my tipping point. I think this is my maximum level of work, where I could work till 12, get up in the morning, have soccer, get enough rest, because whenever you're doing soccer like that, you need to sleep a lot just to make up for training 2 hours a day. And then my legs ballooned from that, just muscle from training so much. And so I think going through that process, and then the stupid part is college algebra, and I just did not agree this past semester. I got A's in all my classes, and I got a D in college algebra.
Dude, apparently it was the academic comeback of the year is what I heard.
It was 100% the academic comeback, because I was in a position of, I was never below the failing line, because you can get a D.
Pretty darn close, right?
I made my 0.05%.
I'm stressing.
And I kept my scholarship by 0.03%.
Okay, what I'm saying
He wasn't expecting that when he asked that question.
we're talking about,
Yeah.
you just put out a LinkedIn post, you guys say no to things. And
He said yes to everything.
you said yes to everything to the point where you were physically suffering from that.
Yeah.
But what, now, you're still greatly involved, but it seems like you have, from the outside perspective, you have a focus, right? You launched your business. You told me you're focusing in on that. Why did you say yes to so many things? And what what allowed you to then focus in? What was it that allowed you? Was it out of necessity? Did you find the skill or find the thing you were passionate about? What allowed you to say no to the other things that you could have said yes to this semester, and give you that clarity and confidence to move forward in this one direction?
I started chasing after what I actually wanted to do, not what was given to me as opportunities to do. So a lot of the things that I wanted to do, I just simply didn't do. I didn't create content. I didn't post the podcast. I didn't really invest in this podcast as much during that semester. I enjoyed soccer. I enjoyed all the things I was involved in. But there's a difference between having a passion for it, wanting to do it, and enjoying it. Because I always find joy in what you're doing, even if it sucks. Just as a natural, otherwise, I didn't at all. So that came to a point where it's I focused on okay, I really love the gym and running now. So that's been more of a focus physically than soccer. So I talked to my coach. Then there was the spring decision time of are you going to play again? No. 25 hours a week. There's other things I'd like to put that time into, making that decision. vice president of my class, there, I enjoyed that. I love doing it, and it's great. I love the team. So I'm still focused in on that. Working for the president of the entrepreneurship org, doing the same thing, but working with others well and delegating better. Like we went through the process of switching over to the entrepreneur operating system, which is a great operating system for organization and for entrepreneurial businesses. And it has finally clicked. So there's a lot of things where I was starting up.
I don't know what's an entrepreneur operating system.
So EOS started by Gino Wickman. It's a way of operating your business, changing some things like how your meetings should run, how you should do vision and mission and traction. And then finally, I think the most important thing is switching from a organizational like pyramid to what's called a seat model, where instead of taking, so say there's us three, and we have all these things we need to do. We need to go over finances, accounting. We need to go over marketing. We need a visionary. We need someone to project manage. And we would just start dumping them on each other and saying, this is what we need to do. The seat model is where you actually take all the different tasks and boil them down into these seats that are hyper specific and have a hour per week number that's put onto it. So the way we did it is we had the visionary, then all of our administrators. So we have, I think it's managers is the next one. So visionary, marketing manager, relationship manager, financial manager, and I think it's just those three. So those are seats. Each seat has specific tasks that they do assigned with a certain amount of hours per week. Underneath those seats, then there's the more hyper-specific. The social media person, administrator, the actual video administrator, photo administrator, and then relationship manager. There you have like customer relations, judge relations, speaker relations, stuff like that. And then there's a couple other seats that we have like that as well.
So did it click because you implemented that, or because people were like, okay, so now I know what I need to do, and it wasn't so general? Like, what made it actually click?
What made it actually click is it took me that long to figure out how to instill the vision of that system into the people. Because I've done it. My dad's business has run on it for multiple years. It took them 1.5 years to get it to go. And that's usually how long it takes businesses to do it. So I fast tracked it in 4 months. And we're still working on it, but we're pretty good at it now. And so establishing those seats where you can sit in multiple seats. It's a method of scalability and delegation to where I sit in 3 seats. I'm the visionary, social media, but I'm not the marketing manager. There's the marketing manager, and then there's the guy who's a finance manager. He also sits in the relationship manager seat. So if you have a block of 4 hours a week, you just take the amount of seats that fill up that block, and that's what you do.
Is there a role in the EOS system where somebody can step out and look over all of it? Not to create the pyramid style, but to be like, check in, be like, okay, so they're kind of all in some sense like a project manager.
The idea is that you can build a great dashboard, but the visionary and or CEO can look at all of the seats and make sure that each seat is checking off their jobs. And so each seat has a dashboard for themselves. So like if you have 3 seats that you're sitting in, you have 3 dashboards that you're looking at. And then I can look at all those dashboards to make that working. Yep. And so that's where it's like, you can go from a team of 3 and you have 20 seats to you can go to a team of 20 and nothing changes.
So kind of summarize what you're saying with the EOS model, but also everything else. There's a quote, I'm not sure who it's by, so I do apologize, but specialize in projects and generalize in skill. Do you think that that's kind of a good methodology?
I think everyone should have that one skill that they really are good at. The one thing that they bring for network, for monetization to be known for, but then you have to have these specific things that you're working on that you're also known for. Like I'm the president of the entrepreneurship org. I'm known for the podcast that I do. And my skill that helps me get into both of those things that I'm known for was video. So I think having that skill, like my belief is you have that one skill and that helps you do the other things that you want to do. And make sure it's the skill that you really want and love doing.
And this all ties into the time management side of things, because as the president, I think there's probably some temptation to, as the leader, as the face and what you're known for, the results that come out of your leadership reflect upon you. And so I think there's a temptation to actually try to control a lot of what's going on by doing, the work yourself. You've heard the saying that if you want to do it right, do it yourself. And I think that's actually pretty detrimental, because if you were to spend all the time doing every single thing, you could do the marketing, you could do the financials, you could actually do a lot of that, but you've actually found a way to sort of create a system or a method to make your time more valuable by being in the highest level of skill that you are, which is in this specific place, it's the visionary. That's the highest value, from my understanding, that you're bringing to the table. You're the visionary, you're the president. You bring people around together to help work towards a common goal. And that's where you're able to use your time most effectively, because you're the one person who says, yes, I can do the marketing, I can do the finances. And they're the ones who are really good at that. And I think when it comes to business, one of the things I've been learning, and it's something that is tough as a solopreneur as you're trying to grow. One of the things the mentor always says is, you do not need to know how to do everything. You just need to know someone who knows everything about that one thing you're looking to accomplish. And that's where the team comes in. It sounds like that's what you've done, and that's how you've been able to, I think, multiply the impact of your time.
Yeah. To take it this step further to the second order effects of implementing the EOS model, and like you were touching on there, is like by Will being more efficient with his time and more efficient with the time associated with everybody getting together, he was not only creating more efficiency and a better system within the org, but he was allowing the people, like you said, to specialize in what they wanted to do, right? Because at the different model, it's like, okay, I have this, and this to do. Okay, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, and you're going to do this. All right, we'll meet next week. Part ways, right? Like that's not helpful, right? And so sometimes people get stuck with crap they don't want to do, and now it becomes like an obligation to be a part of this org. And this org is supposed to be fun and to grow, and that's harder to do with that model. But when you implemented a more efficient model, that's where people could specialize. You're a great leader, and by being a great leader, you can now allow other people to do what they actually want to do and flourish in what they want to do.
And they have I love that, because they have a vested interest in that way, because they're 100% responsible for that area. And so if they don't do a good job, then that's reflected upon them and them only. And that gives them the opportunity to really dive deep in things that they care about and do a really, really good job. I think that's how, I love that you've been able to explain that, because I think that's how you've been able to multiply the impact of your time to create a system that's actually mutually beneficial to everyone involved.
Yeah, having the ability to give people the responsibility of champion in a specific area. Dr. White talks about if he has a specific initiative that he gives a champion, has someone champion it and make it their own. In that month of September, it was really every week we're just trying to figure it out. Like, who's doing what's going on. And now it's to a point where I don't even have to check in like every week, like, hey, like, is this thing moving along? It's like, I just know it's happening.
So I've learned that leaders aren't born, they're created. What's one from leading all these different things, right? You've talked about all the different things you've learned, and when you've overcommitted yourself, you were still learning. And from a leader's perspective, what's one thing you would want somebody to know when entering a leadership role? Like, what's that one skill or one framework that would allow them to better take on that title of leader?
I think whenever you are a leader, you need to understand that whenever you build systems and a culture where you can delegate stuff to other people, that is not delegating time away from you, so you have to do less, but it gives you the opportunity to do more and make a greater impact. So it's not saying you should always work more than whoever you're leading, in my opinion. You should always, doesn't mean more hours, but you should have as much or if not more impact and output from what you're doing.
In versus on, right?
In versus on. So the ability to delegate to other people, bring them in, listen to their opinions, listen to what they're talking about, creating a culture where that's healthy, that allows you to actually work on other, not greater things like, oh, I'm working on better stuff than you. Just working on greater things for the overall organization business, the vision, the strategy to move forward, which will then further benefit them, make them more effective, but also help you move the entire culture and the entire organization forward. So I think that's the biggest thing.
I'll say with the podcast that we're starting up here is we want a vision, and we have different ways to get to that vision because we all have our different perspectives and our different skills and our different knowledge bases, but we all have that one thing in mind to where, in your case, you've set up your whole system to where you have one vision in mind. Okay. Now you have 20 different, 5 or 6 different people. You're like, okay, those are your skill sets. I don't care how you do it. You just get it done, right?
Results.
And so they can take their knowledge, their skills, everything that they know, and if they don't know it, they'll go learn it, to then aim everybody in towards a vision. By delegation, they'll learn more and they'll do it better and more efficient because they know how they work best. Not you. You don't know how they work best.
Creativity and freedom within boundaries.
It allows you to be entrepreneur within the organization,
Which is sick. And imagine how exponent, like the growth that you'll get from that, of having 6 different entrepreneurs in one org compared to one entrepreneur that kind of just tells people what to do.
Yeah.
Like you have linear growth with that model, and then you have exponential growth with the EOS model. Like that's sick, dude. I'm hyped.
100%.
That's awesome.
Like it's having 6 purebred, pure blood entrepreneurs together can be either immaculate success or incredible disaster.
And it's all dependent on the vision.
All depends on the vision and the culture that you put together. And I would say September was more of the immaculate or incredible disaster where it didn't go as well. The org suffered from it, but we've rebounded and it's become incredible success. We're all on the same vision. We all are excited. Like we were talking last night, we talked about the new trend with the TikTok phones that are selling for $56,000 on eBay. It's where if you can't download TikTok anymore on your phone.
You can't?
You cannot. It's not in the App Store anymore. It's not in the Google
But it was already down.
But it's technically illegal to be using TikTok.
Criminal.
So, but people are taking, if you have TikTok already downloaded on your phone, you can sell that phone to other people who don't have it downloaded. And people are paying like 20 grand for them.
I got something.
So we got pumped about that. But it's stuff like that where it's fun, being able to interact with them. And that's really one of the bigger things I've learned is being able to do that throughout the fall, focus in on what I have, and then having a mindset. I think the biggest thing was the mindset change of it went from to be disciplined, you have to have a disciplined mindset. You have to almost like manifest the idea that you are a disciplined person. Therefore, you will become disciplined. Many times I did not think or want or desired to be disciplined. Therefore, I wasn't. Therefore, I was not effective with my time or managing my time. And that's where I think a lot of it went, where early semester didn't work on stuff, didn't prepare for the end of the semester, toward the end of the semester, just sucked.
Yeah, there's a Jocko Willing. He's an ex Navy SEAL. And his whole slogan or tagline or whatever it is discipline equals freedom. And my senior year of high school, I didn't want a summer job. I live in Kansas. The minimum wage is $7.25. Yeah, right.
$7.45 Pennsylvania, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I'm like, I don't want to have a summer job. I want to do my own schedule. I don't want to get paid $7.25. So what I decided to do is I decided to start flipping things. I went to estate sales. I did like a craft and research on vintage, like toys, different things that were vintage I could flip for at least 3x profit. And that whole summer, all I did was flip stuff. I went every Saturday, every Sunday, sometimes Friday night. I went to these estate sales. I bought stuff and I flipped it throughout the week. And literally on Sunday, I listed it all on eBay and Facebook Marketplace. Throughout the week, I worked on my business. And then I went to the gym and I hung out by the pool. And I was able to sell the stuff throughout the week and it rinse and repeat on the weekends. Discipline equals freedom. I had so much freedom there. Granted, it wasn't bringing in a lot of money, but it's bringing in a heck ton more money than working $7.25 an hour. So if you scale that up, not necessarily that business model, but that mindset to where if you have discipline, the amount of freedom that you can get from that, if executed well, is exponential. We talked about this on the previous podcast, where it's like there's uncertainty with the success of building a business, right? But the amount of freedom through that decade-long discipline or however it is crazy if you just stick to it.
So doing both the hard and the right thing today is going to make life easier for tomorrow.
What would your tomorrow self want you to do today?
Do what you want your future self to thank you for.
What he said.
And so that's what I want to ask you as we kind of close is you guys, okay, junior, graduated guy. But yeah, I'm a sophomore. 24. So as you guys have gone through being a freshman, being a sophomore, now being through all phases of undergraduate, how do you make an impact with the time that you have while at college? So having been in college for now your third year, having gone through undergraduate and Masters, MBA, what is it called? Master's program. How do you make an impact with the time that you have for college?
I'll tell you something that I didn't do that I really should have focused on. And it goes back to a little bit. It goes back to how I viewed myself in my high school days. But I always thought I needed to get 100% on my assignments and tests. Like that's just how I was sort of. That's how I trained myself. And I wish I didn't study so hard so that I had opportunities to work on the other things that might have more impact. So, for example, the difference between a 93% and 100% in terms of how it affects your GPA, nothing. But the amount of work that it takes to get from a 93% to 100% could be a couple hours. And I wish I took the 93% or a B even, and instead use those extra hours to work on the entrepreneurial things that I really had a passion for. And I put a lot of pressure on myself succeeding in school for the skills that they're important, but I think there were higher impact things I could have spent my time on. So I do believe in having excellence in what you do, but I don't think when you're trying to do a lot of things at once, you don't have to be 100% perfect. You do everything well, but there's a difference between getting 100% and 93. I wish I spent more time and was okay with getting that 93.
That's good. And to go off that, majority of entrepreneurs are C students. And the reason why, and I hope my parents don't listen to this episode, but the reason why, I don't have C's, I promise. I'm not that a C. But it's because they understand that there's things that they could do with their time outside of bumping it up from a 93 to 100. And it's the opportunity cost. I'm an economics major. Opportunity cost is what you could have done outside of what you're doing now. So I could be at the gym right now, but I'm hanging out with you guys because I value this more. Right. So that's the opportunity cost. I'm trying to weigh. And so that's what you said. My opportunity cost. I decided to get the 100 or the 93 or whatever compared to doing these other things. And I think that that's, like you said, to be able to spend that extra time with the extra hours you get from not having to pump it up to 100, there's a lot of growth with that. And to answer your question, well, how can I make an impact here? My freshman year as an engineer, I spent so much time studying. It was crazy. I was going to drop out because of that. I was this close. My parents couldn't sue out too. Second year, my sophomore year, I was a finance guy. Didn't study as much, but was able to grow my business. And this junior year, economics major, sticking with that one. I like economics. And I realized, I was telling Coop on the phone yesterday, I've realized that I've started 4 different businesses. I'm currently with the Latroit running. And all those businesses, they weren't selfish, but for me to grow them, it's a me thing. For me to get more sales, it's a me thing. I have to do this. I have to do X, Y, and Z too from this. And my why behind third Clash Mind Club, the club I started 2 weeks ago, is purely because I was sick of that. I want to be a part of a community, right? That's why I love this. I love being able to do this right here. Because I go back home after my school day and I sit on my bed and I just work. And that's great. I love that. But to an extent, I wish I could do something a little different because I want to be part of that community. And so that's why I started third place. And that's hopefully what I can leave behind. If I could hear one freshman say, coming into Cedarville, if I could hear them say, I came to Cedarville, I found out about Cedarville because of your run club. Cool. Mission achieved. Because I want that to be a community. I want people to grow. It's fitness through fellowship. That's the goal. And so that's hopefully how I leave my stamp here at Cedarville.
Yeah. As a sophomore so far, and I've had the blessed opportunity just to get involved so much at this point. This is my 4th semester here. I've had older people say, my dad's friends with people at Cedarville, second generation. It's kind of cool to see that. And they've said, Will had a year as a freshman that seniors dream of. It's the involvement level. Where my dad, similar to you guys, he said, I studied so much that I basically had the library as my best friend. And said the best grades he got, the most fun he had, was when he was a senior. He was president of 3 orgs. He started an org. He was in Glee Club singing. And
I love the specification. Singing.
Back then, I think it's kind of like Jubilati now. Back then, they didn't have it as good as like a music program quality. So like they had
And that's why your dad was allowed on TV or
allowed on Dr. A.
Should I ask your dad to sing next time I see him?
Oh, he will do it. Whenever I came here on a tour with him, there was a kid we were live for Chuck's, and we were talking with him. He's like, "Yeah, I got a Spanish minor." He was like, "You speak Spanish? My son's learning Spanish. You guys talk." And then he left.
I hate when people leave me hanging, and I'm like, oh gosh.
So
to engage in
I had to
conversation.
try to talk in Spanish with that kid, so it was great.
Is he Spanish?
No, he spoke fluent Spanish, and I was like B2 at max. Like A1's the best, and then B2, C2.
So yeah, that's bad. Yeah.
It's a good time. So, but it's really the people. Like it's the people that you interact with, you get to meet at college. That's why you come to college in general. Like you come for academics. Yes. But it's the community, the people that you can meet, and the culture that's built by college, where some people, their life goal is to figure out how to recreate that 4-year period that they experienced at college. And a lot of people are trying to find that again. And so making the most of the time that you have when you're at college to actually get that. And some colleges have different cultures. Some of them are a lot more distant. But I think there's those communities within every college out there where you could find that. And so that's the biggest thing for me, is just never sit alone and never lift alone. Like I think the put it in the headphones, listening to a podcast is great at times, but you can do that for like a lot of time when you're older as well.
Like you're telling me about it.
Figuring out how to browse with other people. I loved it. I lived with Java the other day, and bro has got the lats. My gosh, it's crazy.
Inspiration.
Like it's crazy. Right? Like he can bench 225 for 3 reps. I'm at like 145 for 3 reps. What?
He's taking ladies.
Just yeah, he's taking league.
Is he?
Sure.
By who?
I was talking Will's taking.
Oh, Will.
Java. No, he's not.
Java's not. So if you guys, we'll put a picture up so you could take a look at
He
it.
is. He's from Kyrgyzstan. Oh, just to hear that story. But his appreciation for like just hearing his story while lifting, so fun because we're guys. Like it's tough to like you can't just listen to a podcast and sit there. It's very hard for me to get
Do something.
It's also sometimes hard to just have a conversation where
At least someone's watching our podcast. There's someone sitting on the couch right now watching our podcast.
No, so, but they're like doing something else while they're doing something while they're listening.
As a dude,
Sure.
you can you just call somebody out who's a bro who's listening to our podcast.
I'm not saying you can. I'm just saying like I can't.
You're not a real man.
Gosh.
But it's hard.
He's going to get us canceled.
And it's hard to do that, I think. Whenever, so I like doing stuff while having a conversation while listening. And so lifting and talking, it's so fun.
I want to do an episode about how you should row together with somebody. Like if you're working, like, and that's how you can actually maximize row together.
I did that in high school.
Like you're rowing a boat.
Oh, the rowing machine. Oh, I got
Rowing machine.
No, I really like us, but we're rowing.
They got the photo of me and my like unitard in the rowing. I got one.
We're just you're going in the same direction, and you might as well if you're gonna go the same direction.
Row together.
And I want.
If you
but
want,
let's just wrap this up.
if you want, I got the code. I got the code to wrap it up.
Wrap it up.
If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
I agree. If you want to build an empire, you have to build people. Like if you're starting a business, Dan Martell says, build systems that builds you a business. You make money. You can make a certain amount. But if you want to build an empire, if you want to create this big thing that makes impact, you have to build other people. You have to make champions.
So to clarify, just because you have free time doesn't mean that anyone who asks for it is entitled to it. But sometimes when people do ask for your time, it's worth it. And you have to see if you're going to be rowing together or not.
Want to pass your criteria and see if it checks the boxes. If it doesn't, it's a no.
Can't believe I said yes to you.
What does that mean?
Good.
We'll see you on the next episode.
Yeah, good episode, guys.